Hey there, this is Matt once again. A little bit of lighting for the month of October, at least for this video, as I talk about the Tobe Hooper film Lifeforce. Of course, this was the original theatrical poster here. In the blink of an eye, the terror begins. From the director of Poltergeist. Steven Spielberg did this? No, but this one by Stream Factory, I think it's a pretty damn cool cover. I think it's one of their better covers. Before the end of the film, the Blu-ray is a decent Blu-ray. It does have the theatrical cut of the film, which a friend of mine, I remember a friend of mine named Effrey was talking about. He had seen a cut of the film where it began and it seemed like a quicker edit of the film, and the titles of the film looked like this, and it had different music. He's like, I know I'm not crazy. I remember seeing that. Well, the version he had seen was the theatrical cut, which is on here, as well as the longer director cut. I saw the director cut of the film. And you also have a commentary with Tobe Hooper, moderated by, I think Tim Sullivan is the guy's name. You have a little interview with Steve Railsback. Kind of wish it was a longer interview. It says there's an interview with Tobe Hooper, but I don't remember seeing an on-camera interview with Tobe Hooper. Maybe I missed it. No, actually, no. No, there was one. There is one with Mathilda May. There's another commentary with one of the guys who worked on the effects. There's a feature from back in the day. There's a teaser. There's a trailer. There's a TV spot. The interviews are probably at most 10 minutes. So it's not like you're getting a big, expansive, hour-long or 40-minute documentary or whatever, but still is some nice stuff for the movie. It's not bare bones. And the movie itself, watching it again, it's a fun one. It's one of Tobe Hooper's better movies. It's an odd movie. It's a weird movie. It has some really fun special effects. I remember the first time I saw this and reviewed the Blu-ray, I wasn't really the greatest on Steve Railsback because he seems very dry and very sort of still face. But as I've seen more films with him, I enjoy Blue Monkey, which has Steve Railsback among others. I've warmed up to his acting style. And watching again, Steve Railsback didn't bother me as much. And I would say at this point, I like Steve Railsback as an actor. Maybe because in this film it's kind of unique where after the first couple minutes, even though he's the main character, he doesn't appear until about 30 minutes later. Because you have the opening of the film and then he hasn't appeared until about the 40-50 minute mark. So, kind of different considering he's pretty much the lead of the flick. And then this other guy who is, I think his character's name is Colonel Kane, played by Peter Firth. The gist of the story, Halley's Comet is passing by, and Steve Railsback is part of this shuttle that goes to investigate the comet, and they find this spaceship amidst the comet. And they go in, you have some really nice production design, really nice looking sets, really cool special effects, headed by John Dykstra. Very well done. And they find these dead bodies of these big bats. So like humanoid version of bats, desiccated bodies. Looks really cool. Nice, again, nice looking set. Then they find these three naked figures who appear to look human inside these sort of giant crystals. And they bring them aboard, things happen, then it cuts away, and most of this film takes place in London. And they investigate the shuttle. There's seems like no one's alive, but they find these three bodies. They bring them back. Mathilda May, who most of her role is her being naked, and beautiful woman, I will say. Mathilda May, very beautiful. I don't think she knew much English, so she had to pretty much repeat what Tobe Hooper and such said to her verbatim for her performance, which works out fine because she's supposed to be an alien, so it's not like it's off. Her acting off is not a detriment to the flick, and again, she's a very beautiful lady. And what they do are they're pretty much space vampires. And in fact, that was what this novel, it was based on a novel that was strictly called The Space Vampires. And it was going to have that title, but I think Lifeforce just sounds a lot better. I like the name Lifeforce. And that's what they do. They suck the life force out of you. And that's a cool idea. And it was realized in a very interesting visual way. For example, when this guard has been killed and turned into this shriveled skeletal corpse, and they have the dead body somewhere, and they're looking at it at an autopsy, and then the corpse of the guard rises up and kind of moves around and hypnotizes someone to come to him, and they sort of suck in the life force, and you see one sort of shrivel up and one sort of gain skin and gain figure as a sort of electrical pulses between them. It's a lot of fun. The special effects are a lot of fun to watch. It's like they bring a little bit of that swirl that you saw in Poltergeist, but a little bit more of that horror that Tobe Hooper's known for. And I can't praise the special effects enough. There's another scene where the two characters here have two bodies on a helicopter, and all of a sudden those two bodies, blood just starts flying out of their eyes, start flying out of their mouths, just fly out and stop in midair and form this body, which becomes Mathilda May head to toe in blood, sort of squirming around, and then screams and sort of collapses in this heap of blood. And describing it as one thing, seeing it as another, and once again, very great special effects. Or when London is going apeshit crazy and Peter Firth is trying to get to this cathedral where Steve Railsback and Mathilda May are at, and he's stopped by this male vampire. And one thing leads to another, he stabs the male vampire, and the male vampire turns into its natural form, which is a live version of one of those bat type things. And it looks really cool. Unfortunately, there's no picture of it here, but it looks fantastic. It looks. I would love to see a whole movie that dealt with those kind of things all the way through, those giant bat type figures. It's just a really awesome effect. Looks really cool. So again, the special effects deserve praise. Mathilda May's titties, they do deserve praise as well. The acting is good. Mostly it's a British cast. And it worked out because these British actors, they're very established actors that bring what could be a very silly idea or ideas, but they make them more believable. Because they sell their lines of dialogue. They're not half-assing it. They're not phoning it in. You actually have an appearance by Patrick Stewart, where they're looking for Mathilda May, and then they find out that her body's hidden somewhere, but she herself can sort of pass from body to body, as they're trying to find whose body it's in, and it leads to this mental institution, which Patrick Stewart heads up. And at one time, they're drugging him and trying to get information, but Mathilda May in Patrick Stewart's body hypnotizes Steve Railsback to kissing him. So from time to time, you will hear Patrick Stewart in an interview joke about how his first on-screen kiss was with Steve Railsback in this movie. I don't know how he feels about the film now, but Steve Railsback in the interview, he's proud of the movie. Before I get into it, this was the first film that Tobe Hooper did for Canon Pictures, Canon Films, where pretty much one of them threw the book at Tobe Hooper and said, "Hey, I really want you to make this movie." And Tobe Hooper read it and he said, "Okay." Now, I know the writing is, they say, by Dan O'Bannon and Don Jakoby. And Dan O'Bannon, of course, helped write Alien, directed Return of the Living Dead. But from what I understand, even though their names are on it, the script that they wrote was kind of thrown out last minute and other people rewrote it. So while their names are on it, they might not, their script might be not be the one that's on screen. That's kind of the shady thing when you come to who actually wrote what. Just because your name's on it doesn't mean you wrote it. And vice versa. That's always hard to determine. So I remember reading one point that Dan O'Bannon, he didn't like the idea of the Halley's Comet is supposed to be some asteroid belt or sort. The music, I thought the music was well done by, yeah, based on the novel The Space Vampires by Colin Wilson. Henry Mancini. I especially like the main theme. But da 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 da. That's a really great piece of music. And you know it's a great piece of music when they start using it in a lot of movie trailers after this film came out. You can hear it. The one that pops up is the trailer to the Jean-Claude Van Damme film Death Warrant. If you watch the trailer to the film Death Warrant, you will hear that piece of music during that. I know there's other trailers that did it, but that's the one that sticks out to mind, being a Van Damme fan. Of course, seeing his picture in the background, I'm like, yeah, it was in the trailer to Death Warrant. So I like the music. The special effects are fun. It is a pretty weird plot. I remember the first time I saw it, I was a bit confused as to why London went apeshit so quickly. But if you're paying more attention to the film, they do explain that Mathilda May's character has pretty much been leading them away from London, and the two male vampires were not really dead. They were thought to be dead because the soldiers shot the shit out of them. And secretly, they had been sucking people's life force. And that's the thing, is that when you suck someone's life force and you have to desecrate a corpse, in about an hour or two, they come back and then they want life force. But unlike the three main space vampires, they only help them for a short amount of time. Then they'll go back to being the desecrated corpse. So then they have to keep sucking someone's life force. And that's how it spreads like a plague. And that's how London becomes apeshit. So watching it again, I understood that a bit more. So it didn't bother me as much. And you do tell this had pretty decent budget because this version of London was built, and you have this this swirl of slipstream going through the city and blowing up this double-decker bus, and Peter Firth is trying to do the cathedral. You have these almost hundreds of zombies. I mean, I know they're space vampires, but on a quick look, they kind of look like zombies. And the fun, interesting premise, the cast doing their jobs, good score, and a lot of fun special effects made this a good movie to watch. And I think when I watched this director's cut, I believe the narration at the very beginning is John Larroquette, who of course did the narration for the original and remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, I could be wrong, but if you watch the director's cut of this, I don't know if it's on the theatrical cut, but the director's cut of this, and you listen to someone narrating at the very beginning, like after the credits, I swear that's John Larroquette. And if so, I'm like, wow, that's cool. Tobe Hooper got John Larroquette again to do that. And I will say I have less problems with the film now than I did when I first saw it. Steve Railsback, his character doesn't really get to do much because, again, he appears at the beginning of the film. He appears about 40, said about 50 minutes, but it's more like 45 minutes into it. And then it's pretty much feeling her because they now have a mental connection. Oh, we have to go here, we have to go there. So you're not. Oh, he's sort of the lead hero, but he doesn't really get to do much except sort of trying to find where she's at, and then when the time's right, they both stab each other. And it wasn't the most satisfying that her and the ship did not get destroyed, because their ship is right above, and she's sort of in the cathedral, and all the souls of the life force is going up to the ship. And when he stabs through both of them, they're not really dead because you see them going up to the ship and then the ship goes away and you go, well, wait a minute, so they're not dead? Even though he stabbed in the spot you're supposed to? So does that mean the ship will come back when Halley's Comet comes back in the next 60, 70 years? Um, I mean, granted, he saved the day and stopped the madness, but I don't know. I guess I would have been more satisfied if he killed the vampire and destroyed the ship or something. I know that's a nitpick, but I don't know, just maybe that would have been a little bit more satisfying. Maybe it would have been nice if Steve Railsback had a little bit more to do physically, like more physical fighting, killing of some of these vampires, even the ones that are affected. Although I do like when Peter Firth shoots a flare at one while it's attached to a chopper. Like maybe a few more moments of that sprinkled throughout the flick, especially maybe the middle portion. Maybe they give Steve Railsback a little bit more to do physically. But overall, I just say Lifeforce, it's a fun movie. It's an entertaining film. It's an oddball, weird, little bit of a unique movie. And maybe all that combined is what made me enjoy it a bit more watching it again. This is a fun film. If you haven't seen Lifeforce and you like 80s sci-fi horror movies, you like a little bit unique oddball movies, you want to see a woman in her luscious body and titties for a good portion of the flick. You want to see just the idea of space vampires is a cool idea, and they took the idea, they utilized it well. The beginning shots of inside Halley's Comet, and especially inside the alien spacecraft, there's some pretty cool set design and entertaining old school special effects. There's a lot of fun to watch it again. So I liked it. I still like it. I do think it would easily be in my top 5 Tobe Hooper films. In fact, probably my top 4. Probably be in my top 4 favorite Tobe Hooper films. But yeah, this was the first one that Tobe Hooper did for Canon Films, and it did not do well. You got the idea that Canon Films, I guess because of the success of Poltergeist, they thought, man, this is going to be a big hit too, and they were hoping to go bigger with their movies and have big, successful hits. But their 3-picture deal with Tobe Hooper ultimately became a flop because Lifeforce did not do well. They spent a good chunk of money on that. Invaders from Mars, which is the next film I'll talk about, which I do not like. This is much better than Invaders from Mars. That flopped, and then Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 did alright, but not that great either. So probably retrospect, Ham Films wishes they never did the 3-picture deal with Tobe Hooper, but I'm glad because we got at least 2 out of 3 good films. Yeah, Lifeforce, fun movie. Thanks for watching, take care, and we will see you later.